like most good teachers, my kids taught me a lot more than I ever taught them. And one of the things they taught me is that I am not a wheelchair. I'm a person who happens to sit in a wheelchair, but a wheelchair doesn't define me. And so I want to talk to you a little bit today about dreams. But I have to tell you a little bit about sort of my background first. You guys know the little blue guy? I hated the little blue guy. I can still remember when I first learned to drive after my injury, and I hated using those parking places. So, you know, because what's the little blue guy represent? What words come to mind for you? Handicapped, useless, helpless, worthless, never going to be able to do anything on my own again. Well, flash forward 20-some years, and I now see it a little bit differently. You stay out of my parking place, I am the little blue guy. Now here's the question. How do you go from one of those to the other? How do you go from life stage to I get the good parking? Well, that's the story I want to tell you today. And the first thing I gotta say is this. With all apologies to Staples, there ain't no easy button for something like that. Any of you that have experienced adversity, which would be everyone at some point, knows that it's not the way it's portrayed in the movies, right? In the movies, the guy falls off the ladder in one scene, and then the next scene he gets the beautiful girl and everything lives happily ever after, right? Well, I got the beautiful girl, but it didn't exactly happen in the next scene. It took a while. So what happened? Someone told me once that they didn't understand how I could be so optimistic with what's happened to me. And my response was, I don't see myself at all as an optimistic person. In fact, you know the thing about the glass being half full or half empty? Well, I usually think it's not only half empty, but it has a hole in the bottom of it. To me, what happened is not optimism. To me, what happened is hope. Along the way, people, some of whom are in this room, helped me find hope. Now, let's be clear about something. By hope here, I don't mean a wish. You know, I hope I get a new bike for my birthday. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about when I say hope is an expectation based on faith. Wherever you place your faith, the kind of hope I'm talking about is an expectation. My friend Dick Foth says it's a confident expectation. And what I've discovered in my journey is that hope changes what's possible. Now, I'll show you how I discovered hope. This is a photograph of the basement, the physical therapy gym in the basement of the old Porter Valley Hospital. Now, they call it physical therapy, but the abbreviation is PT because it's really pain and torture. Now, I had an interesting relationship with my physical therapist because I had this great attitude toward life. So my physical therapist worked hard, and I did nothing. Well, I met this physical therapist named Leonard. Leonard was kind of a crusty old guy, and I met him about 18 months after my injury. And he put up with my attitude for, about an hour. And then he sat down in front of me, and he told me something that, when it finally sunk in, changed my life. He drew a circle on a piece of paper, and he wrote the number 10,000 in it. And he said, Rich, I want you to imagine that this circle represents the 10,000 things you can do before you got hurt. Now, I was kind of impressed that he thought I could do 10,000 things. You know, play the violin and, you know, dunk the basketball and all that sort of thing. But after, all joking aside, then he turned the paper over and he drew that. And he said something to me that no one had said in all those 18 months of rehab. He said, you lost 2,000 things and you are never going to get them back. And that stinks. And you shouldn't be mad about that. You should grieve that. Then he said, do the math. What's the orange part? I got to tell you, I'm doing this in junior high a while back, right? And I said that, kid's hand shot up, 7,000. Then they asked me why I retired. But in all seriousness, Leonard said to me, Rich, you have a choice. Where you can focus. 2,000 you lost, or the 8,000 you got left. You decide. Now, as I said, there's no easy button. But when this finally sunk in, it changed my life. And what I've learned is this isn't just about me. Anybody in here, as life moves on, is anybody in here experiencing that there are some things you used to be able to do that you can't quite do as well as you used to be? What are you left with? That's the 2,000. Anybody sometimes get a little focused on those things that they can't do as well anymore? That's our choice. You're going to focus on what you've lost, or you're going to focus on what's left. I was talking in Timberland Church last weekend, and a former student walked up to me, and he was carrying a little boy who obviously had a physical disability. And he with tears were just running down his face. He was just crying. And he said, my son has spina bifida, and I don't know what I'm going to tell him when he's old enough to realize that he can't do all the things the other boys can do. And I said, tell him this. Don't let what you can't do keep you from doing what you can do. Don't let the 2,000 things keep you from doing the 8,000 things. This became real for me when I discovered a hand cycle. Some of you were marveling at my hand cycle up here before. And actually, some friends convinced me to try this. I really didn't want to do it. But they badgered me enough that I finally said, okay, I'll give it a try. Now, the thing that actually convinced me to try it was that I noticed most hand cyclists had arms like that. This happens to be Matt Updike, who's on the U.S. Paralympic team and climbs Mount Evans for fun on a hand cycle. And I figured, you know, what, 3 weeks? I'd look like that. You people laugh in all the wrong places. But then reality set in, because remember that thing in the video about the 10 feet? Look on the floor and estimate how far 10 feet is. I could not push my first chair 10 feet without stopping. And so when I first got on the hand cycle, you want to guess what happened? Well, I felt a little bit more like that guy than what I thought I was going to be. And it was a little longer than 3 weeks before I got better at it. But for some reason, hand cycling attracted me. Hand cycling got me out of the feeling sorry for me. Hand cycling was the first place where I really started saying, maybe there is something here that I can do that's fun and productive. And as I rode my hand cycle that first spring in 1999, I got a dream. It was the first real dream I'd had since I got hurt. And my dream was that I wanted to ride my bike 1,000 miles in the summer. Now, 10 feet, 1,000 miles. I have some friends who would really fit in this club well. Because, you want to guess what they said when I told them I was going to ride 1,000 miles in the summer? They said, okay, let's go. But here's the thing that I discovered about dreams. Once you accomplish one, it leads to other ones. Now, these are 2 pencils with little foam rubber things on them. I went to a physical therapist once, and I said I can't write because my hands don't work. And being the kind, supportive person that physical therapists are, she said, well, you use a computer. And I said, how do you type if your fingers don't work? So she handed me these things. And the foam pieces are supposed to be so that I can hold on to them better. She said, learn to type like this. Can you do that? Well, once I got focused on the 8,000 things I could do instead of the 2,000 I couldn't do, apparently you can type of that, because in the last 3 or 4 years, typing with those 2 pencils, I've published 3 dozen or so magazine articles, a 52,000 word book, and I write a blog 4 times a week that's 500 to 1,000 words. All because I decided to look at the 8,000 things instead of the 2,000. Pretty amazing transformation. And you remember this guy? The guy with the skinny little arms? Well, that's what happens when you find hope. You get a really cool looking white dog. And a wife that you can crank around and go out and enjoy the bike trails and be with your friends and take your dog for a run and start actually acting like you have a normal life again. That's what hope does. Hope changes what's possible. If you'd asked me 15 years ago, was I ever going to be able to do something like this, I would have said, no way, I can't. Now, I ride it every day. And here's the thing about dreams. You got to be careful. Somebody said you had a bucket list. Be careful. Because dreams have a way of growing on you until they actually even get outside the screen. Like Itasca, Minnesota. Anyone ever been there? It's the source of the Mississippi River. In 2 weeks, some friends and I are going to be in Lake Itasca. And then I'm going to start on a journey. I'm going to crank my bike 1,500 miles to Lake the Mississippi River. We'll call it a Rich's Ride, together on a journey of hope. We're going to raise money for a wonderful organization called Convoy of Hope. My dream is to get 10,000 people to pledge a penny a mile. And if you want to do the math, you can on that. We've actually even got some corporate sponsors that are matching that to Convoy. So for every penny somebody donates, we've got a matching donation. I'm going to try to speak to as many people as I can along the way. My dream is that I'll find some people who are still focused on those 2,000 things, and I'll be able to tell them about the 8,000, and maybe convince them to change where they're focusing. But what's the point for you guys? I'm telling you this journey, okay, that I've been on, from can't push my chair 10 feet to crazy enough to think I could ride my bike 1,500 miles down the Lake of the Mississippi. What's the point for you? Well, here's what I think it is. Any of you ever been to that spot? The road that goes up there is not an easy road to climb on a bike. I can promise you it's not an easy road to climb on a hand cycle. And I also promise you that that picture's not Photoshopped. I'm not telling you this because I think I did anything special. Because I'm just one very blessed guy who had some friends who didn't let him quit on life. But here's what I want you to take away from this. If an old, bald, crippled guy can do that, what can you do? So, put your picture there. If you've got something on your bucket list, don't put it off. If you don't have something on your bucket list, start one. Find a dream, go after it. Thanks.